I'm Jake. That's Kyle. This is Songwriting 101. This week, we're going to have the breakdown. Breakdown. Sorry, I had monster truck announcer's disease for just a second. This week, we're going to do a breakdown. We're going to take a look at some classic songs to take a look at how they structured them, what the lyrics were, what the chord progressions were, because when we see how some classic songs are structured, this might give us some ideas in our own songwriting. This week, we're going to do a breakdown of the classic Rolling Stones tune, Honky Tonk Women. What do you think of the Rolling Stones there, Kyle? Yeah, they're getting up there. We have to start thinking about the kind of world we're going to be leaving behind for Keith Richards. Anyway, so let's take a look at Honky Tonk Women. So one of the first things we want to do is take a look at the basic structure of the song. So this song's kind of interesting because what you have is they have a very brief intro. And we're going to talk about not only the structure, but a little bit of some production notes. So in the intro, they just have the drums open up with cowbell. And if you don't have cowbell in your song, I don't even know what you're doing. But they open up with the drums, little cowbell. So that catches your attention straight away. And then the vocal comes in on that first verse, but it's still only, well, drums, cowbell, then they add a guitar for some licks, so that's the intro. But then when Mick Jagger comes in with the vocal, it's just him. It's drums, guitar, so they've been building little bit by little bit as we come into the song. They add the vocal, and then on the last line of the first verse, another voice comes in, so we give it some emphasis, and then we're into the first chorus, and that's when everybody comes in. That's when you have the bass add in, the other guitars add in, and now we're off to the races. So I think this is an interesting way to capture, from a production standpoint, it's an interesting way to capture the attention of the listener. Now, let's look at the overall structure of the song. Like we said, we had the intro, then we came into the first verse, and then we have the chorus. Is it a fancy chorus? It is not. It is literally 2 lines. We're going to take a look at the lyrics themselves here in just a moment. So we have intro, verse, this chorus, which is just a solid hook. Then we have the second verse. We hit the chorus again. There's a musical interlude where we get to hear the guitars play some licks. The chorus is hit 2 more times, and then it's boom, out. 3 minutes, 3 seconds running time. It's almost like the song was built for streaming because you want the listener to engage, get out, and have them go, wow, I want to listen to that song again. And a few million streams later, you know, you're looking at a couple $dozen. Nice job, Spotify. Anyway, let's take a look at the lyrics. You would think, oh, my songs have to rhyme. When we went through some of the earlier episodes, we talked about rhyming, structure, meter, and we did focus on rhymes, but the Rolling Stones were certainly not limited on rhymes. And what they tend to do is what we see here, near rhymes. So in that first verse, the rhymes come on the second and fourth line of each of these verses. So here, the second line ends on ride, and the fourth line ends on mind of the first verse. Ride, mind. Not a rhyme, near rhyme. We see the same thing, sort of treatment in verse 2. Second and fourth line, we have fight, and again we see mind. Again, near rhymes, but not actual rhymes. You just have Mick Jagger singing with a lot of emphasis. Yeah, and look at that chorus. 2 lines. It's the Honky Tonk Women, gimme, 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 the honky tonk blues. No rhymes. A lot of alliteration as we repeat gimme, 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 and it's honky tonk, but that's it. So I guess it's a real lesson for, sometimes you don't have to overthink these things. Sometimes you don't have to overthink these things. Just keep it simple. All right, let's talk a little bit about the chord structure. This song is kind of interesting because on the surface it seems very basic. It's in the key of G, and you would expect to see, for a pop song, the use of the 1-4-5. And we certainly see that here. The 1 is the G major, the 4 is the C major, the 5 is the D major. But then something interesting happens on the way to writing this song. So the verse goes from the 1 to the 4, from the G to the C, and then it goes from the 1 to the what? The A, and you're like, wait a minute, A major is not even in this key. And that's right. And in fact, we weren't going to play anything today because the purpose of this is to not learn how to play Honky Tonk Women. The purpose of this video is to understand the structure, the structural elements behind how the song was written. But I think it's useful to point out a couple differences. So in the key of G, we would expect, you might go, oh, well, the 2 is the A minor. But you're going from the G but then they go from the G to the A. So that's kind of interesting because the only A adjacent chord is the A minor. That's, as we've learned, minor chords are when you want to be dark and mysterious and gloomy. If you want to keep things on the up, use major chords. But this is a case where this is what's referred to as a dominant or a borrowed chord. So we're using the A major. They could have gone full country. So you see this treatment, this dominant or borrowed chord appears a lot in country music. And if they could have gone full country and gone with the A7. That would have been a really interesting tonality there. But I think it's just interesting to point out that they have on the surface this simple chord progression, 1-4, 1 dominant, and then to the 5. And then on the chorus, it is just G, D, G, D, G. The 1-5, 1-5. And that's it. So it is kind of interesting from a tonality perspective, that borrowed dominant chord, which is the A major. That sort of wraps up this breakdown of Honky Tonk Women. Just from a production standpoint, it's kind of interesting too to point out that they have a quick, catchy introduction. They build up into that first hook as they slowly add instruments to keep the attention. There's only 2 verses. The 2 verses are each sung once, but that chorus is sung 4 times as they emphasize the hook. You have a break with the musical interlude, and then you come out of that break right back into the chorus. And then you're boom. The outro is woo. and you're done with the song. 3 minutes, like we said, 3 minutes, 3 seconds running time. The other thing to point out is, well, I focus on the basics of the chords, the G, C, A, and the D. It's important to note that the Rolling Stones use a lot of variations on those basic chords. So they throw in the basic chord, and then they'll use variations where they have suspended fourths. So that's something to keep in mind when you're doing your own songwriting. Explore sort of the boundaries of these chord progressions to think about, when can I borrow a chord? When do I play the basic chord? When does adding a variant to that chord add some interesting tonality to my song? And where do I place those tonal elements amongst the lyrics to make the song interesting? All right, that's it. That's the breakdown for this week. Honky Tonk Women. I'm Jake. That's Kyle. This is Songwriter 101.